Hey guys, welcome back to my video, and this is video number 3. And today I just want to talk about some deep things, some meaningful things that I've learned about what acting from my own values and what real strengths mean to me that I've discovered throughout this winter break. So today's gonna be a bit very meaningful, kind of serious and vulnerable to myself because I'm going over my own mistakes and my own faults that I've gladly able to go through this winter break. And I think I've learned a lot more deeper about myself. And yeah, it was a really good emotional growth. So basically, this winter break, I went through like a relationship, and I kind of ended it before school started. So assuming from that, you already know, like, you went through a lot of emotional turmoil over the winter break. And what this taught me was that I was looking at myself, and you know before, the pattern was I was doing everything, almost a lot of my things were just for like external validation. I wanted to dress good, I wanted to look good, to be more attractive. I wanted to, do all these different hobbies to make myself look like, you know, I do a lot of things in life. I want to be smart. I want to be, physically attractive. So I went to the gym a lot. And, you know, that was my life. Like throughout this high school life, I was doing a lot of my things just to get that external validation from who knows, I don't even know who, like just random people that are around me. And what I did particularly wrong was that I just measured my own value, my own worth through measuring my own achievement, measuring my own, let's say, like grades, how I did on the result of my marathon, whether if I, you know, got the girl I wanted, or whether I was portraying myself as a high value person. I used to just measure my own self in such a, just like, if I don't achieve this, I'm a failure. And that's how my life was. Every single day, I put tasks, I created tasks for myself. And sometimes, one day when I'm motivated, I would knock them all down. Most days, I wouldn't. I would only do like one or two. And the days that I didn't complete all my tasks, I felt shit about myself because I was measuring myself with achievements. And without caring too much about how I felt, or if I had to do this, if I really had to do this or not, wasn't thinking about it. I was just doing it because, you know, I embodied someone who is like that high value person, which I've talked about in the first video as well. But basically, what I was doing is I was performing. I was just straight up performing for others instead of being, instead of like living for my own self, for myself, just being genuine and honest with myself. I was doing all these different things to prove others, like my family, of course. I have an Asian family, they have high expectations. And you're always taught to live like, I was always taught to live like you had to become an elite person, you had to become a high value person, you had to portray an image of a very nice, easygoing, very sophisticated person. And living with that thought, it definitely made me a high competent person, but something felt missing. And when I went through this relationship, or other relationships in the past, I realized that I wasn't really chasing, I was just chasing things just for the sake of my own validation. And let's try to be honest, but sometimes I was not really self-aware of what I wanted, who I wanted to be, and what I wanted for others. And yeah, so especially not just the relationship, but like in life goals in general. Last year I ran the marathon. After I ran the marathon, I felt fulfilled, and I was very happy that I fulfilled my goals. But a few weeks later, I felt worthless again because I wasn't achieving no more. During the marathon race, or during like the time where I was training for the marathon, I was pursuing a big goal for myself. And at that time, like I was training very hard, going on runs, hitting the gym, you know, getting my grades up, talking to different girls, and doing all these different things, and like going out with friends, learning guitar. Like I was doing all these things, and then once my big goal for the year, which was running the marathon, was over, I just felt empty. I felt like a void in myself. Like, what am I doing? I just felt lost. Like, what am I doing? Why did I just run the marathon just for others to see that I can run a marathon, and I can, just to prove myself that I am worthy of being respected or just being loved by others. And it was a tough question, and it was like it just didn't feel like I enjoyed what I was doing from the bottom of my heart. And it was tough to go through all these different emotional, roller coaster. And that was also the same with a couple of my relationships. Once I got to got her to like me, then the same thing with the marathon happened. Like I just felt like, what am I chasing now? I was just chasing for her attention. And I admit that I feel like I'm a piece of shit saying this, but yeah, I was just chasing her attraction, and I wasn't really wanting that genuine connection. Like I wasn't there for that, for a deeper connection. I just wanted to prove myself that I was capable of getting a girl and navigating a relationship without really, you know, fully being present with who I am and the time I'd spent with, this person. So that was my mistake. And honestly, like going through this made me much more emotionally developed as well. I feel more, just having this realization and this self-awareness was such a valuable learning experience to me. And so what I've learned is that real strength, real strength is not about, never showing weakness, you know, or like never showing your insecurities. Real strength comes from admitting what your weakness is, admitting your deep down, your desires, and being fully present. I was always distracted. My mind was always distracted with like things on social media, YouTube. I used to just binge watch YouTube the whole entire night, whole entire day, and I would feel bad about it because I wasn't achieving anything. And yeah, so you have to admit that you have to admit, and self-care might sound like fluff, or like it sounds like a fluff, or it sounds like, something that people who are insecure needs it. But I think everyone needs to be kind to themselves and understand yourself in much more deeper way, because that's what creates real strength. And I've learned that because I was always harsh on myself. I was always harsh toward my own my own self, because that's what I thought I would need it for, being to become strong. That's what I thought I needed to become strong. And it is definitely necessary to have discipline. And I've always I went through the discipline of training for the marathon, so I can say this from experience that you need discipline to achieve big goals. But at the same time, to when you achieve that goal, you want to feel content. Or else, like, if I was chasing a big goal for 10 years without being true to myself, and once I achieve that goal, what if I feel empty and void, like you feel the void inside of yourself? That means you've wasted 10 years of your life chasing this goal that you never actually wanted. So that's the mistake that I don't want to make no more. I want to be fully honest and present with my own emotions, my own feelings, and just care about how I feel more often. The reason why I'll distract myself watching YouTube is because, when you think about it, I just don't want to face the reality of doing the hard work every day makes you better. I get my cope mechanism on and I start binge watching YouTube, doom scrolling on Instagram. And that's what creates this cycle of being degenerate and trying to get motivated again, watch some motivation videos and start working, super hyper focus, doing like, push-ups in the morning, waking up like a military would do. Like, that's not going to be sustainable. But throughout my high school life, it was a cycle of all these patterns. And now that I've realized, like, a lot of the things that I was doing for example, like my essays, or like, all these different clubs that I would do, even the SAT, was just, it wasn't really that meaningful. It was for me to go to college and have a bright future, but what is the future? That's the real question that I had to face, but I wasn't ready to face, or I was just coping, or I was just, avoiding it. And so the real question you have to ask, the hard question, it's uncomfortable, because you never know. You don't know what you want because you never became true to I was never true to myself. And that was the reason why I was never true to myself, and that was the reason why I was afraid to tackle this question of what do I want to do in the future. And so one lesson that I would take away is be honest with yourself and look at yourself from a third person perspective. What I've done is, it's good to talk to, your friends or your family, or even I'll just chat with freaking AI and just ask about life questions, and they're very precise. Once you tell them your own feelings and your own deep down emotions without filtering any of it just to make yourself look like a perfect person, once you open up, like, they give you precise insight of who I really am and what kind of person I am. And that's how I found out. Like, the AI precisely asked me a question saying, who are you when I'm not achieving? And that single question hit me super hard, because I didn't know who am I when I'm not achieving. I was always someone who's achieving things, always doing things, learning a skill or learning new things and becoming good at it. And yeah, but who am I when I'm not achieving? And that's when I realized I need to have some values. I need to have some core values that I live on it every single day. And, I was just achieving just for my own sake. So now I want to achieve things or do things for the sake of others. And that's kind of like the emotional growth that I went through this winter break. And, first of all, living with core values. So my core values, I think I mentioned this in the first video as well. I'll just say it again because it is part of who I am now. So core value number one is growth. Growing every single day. That means being disciplined and practicing on different skills, trying to understand, assess your own feelings every single day, try new things. That's part of growth. Now, next one is connection. Connection is something that I've had a hard time making. And one was that I was growing up, I was really anxious, nervous, shy. And I've gotten over being shy, but like my relationships were often not as deep as I wanted. Like just not just with a girl, but in like general, my relationships with other people were very surface level. And I'm gonna admit that like I've deep down I desire like a super tight relationship, like a brotherhood or like buddies, like that you would like a team, like a buddy on a mission, and that's something that I've always wanted, but I've never had. So valuing connection means being more open to new connection, as well as going deeper and understanding others, not just thinking about my own things, thinking about others and what they want, and respecting their time and appreciating who they are. So that's what connection is gonna be, and I will try to live with connection from now. Like from now on, I'm just trying to keep it like very conscious to myself and intentional every single day. And the third value is compassion. So compassion, I think this is like giving. So giving my time, giving my energy, giving my love to others in a genuine way it takes a lot of practice. And I think once you give some things, it's such a wholesome act. Like it's such a wholesome act of unselfishness. And it's just not about possession, like objects, like giving some gifts or anything. It's about giving your whole entire presence. And I've learned that through going through these relationships, going through these emotional roller coaster, that giving presence is something that is very hard to do. It's very difficult to do, but once you understand it, understand your own value and and really who you are, it becomes natural. So I will be trying to practice that throughout my life from now on. So those are the three values that I've gained throughout this winter break. So yeah, real strength. Real strength is not about being tough all the time. It's not about never needing someone. It's not about constant achievement just to prove myself I'm a high value person. I'm a competent person. It's not about hiding away and avoiding your own struggles. It's about facing your own struggles. It's about admitting what your faults are and what your weaknesses are. And it's about ending things that aren't working. So being honest with who you are, making your decisions, and being 100% accountable of your own actions and your own decisions. I'm not gonna lie, like going through all of these different things made me feel uncomfortable. And when you're changing, yeah, things become uncomfortable. When you are going to, like for me, going to the BJJ class, it was uncomfortable. When you have to make a call to that girl that things are not working, it's uncomfortable. when you are waking up early in the morning just to go, on a run, on a day, on a training, it's uncomfortable. But I think there's success and there's greatness once you overcome those uncomfortableness and things become more comfortable to you. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back soon. Peace out.